One of the cornerstones of Buddhism is the acceptance of impermanence. Millennia-old civilizations will crumble. Important people will fade away in the currents of collective memory. A lifetime's work will crumble into dust with the ineluctable passage of time, and entropy will remain the only immutable truth in the universe. The ultimate suffering is to be found in attachment, in the refusal to accept the end of a cycle and the fantasy of immortality. This too shall pass. Everything has a beginning, and everything has an end. Only by accepting our powerlessness in the face of this necessity can we be free. Yet far from Buddhism, Chito and Yuri experience the reality of impermanence on a daily basis. In a world in its final stages of decomposition, they pursue the last havens of life amid ghostly echoes of civilization. Every day, a new journey. Every day, a new Ember Fades. Every evening, the prospect of the next light in the midst of darkness. Two very alive young girls on a pilgrimage route to the top of the mountain, piecing together snatches of a humanity long since forgotten. Even the end of the world needs its observers to take place. In each chapter, in each episode, they discover an immemorial heritage to bring back to life for a moment in their wise ignorance. A temple, an apartment, a battlefield, a museum. All these things they had never known, things that have never held any weight for them in the face of their daily survivalist existence. Their only reality. But I know these things. I live them every day. Yet Chi and Yu devote a detached curiosity to them, putting big and small things on the same level in the great equalizer of time. Watching them, I think that maybe the importance I attach to certain things is absurd. Perhaps I should distance myself from them and devote myself to other, more essential things. I've come to wonder whether the growing complexity of our civilization really makes sense and isn't harbinger of its own demise. In a way, their simplicity is as dizzying for me as the city they explore is to them. Their simple, candid words hit hard, forcing my feet back on the ground, free from the furious chaos of ideas and the suffocating tunnels of information. Whispers screaming at me to reconnect with my environment and stop letting myself be besieged by absurd attachments to things that don't deserve so much mental investment. I realize the absurdity of some of my behaviors by recognizing myself in the people they meet along the way. Kanazawa and his obsession with mapping the city, freed by seeing his maps fly into the abyss. Ishii and her desire to leave the city in the last plane ever created, liberated in the failure of her creation. Life has no meaning other than the one we give it. And it's easy to get so caught up in it you forget that it goes on even after that meaning is lost, courteously leaving its place to the next.
でしょ? ありがとう.
Each symbolic death is the beginning of a new cycle. Indefinitely, until the very last note of the universe's swan song. Immortality is a curse, preventing the eternal return of life cycles, where everything becomes a daydream, blurring into an indistinguishable fog. Life only makes sense in the face of death. Death only makes sense if we live to prepare for it. The world is cold, sad, and desperate. Interestingly, Tsukumizu, the author, fully admits the important influence of Tsutomu Nihei's Blam manga in the creation of her city. From architect-turned-manga artist Nihei and his biomechanical cyberpunk universe, we find the same pronounced taste for cyclopean buildings with perspective lines running off into infinity. With Chi and Yu providing the scale, it's not uncommon to see them totally crushed, tiny in the face of incredible expanses of nothing. Maintenance tunnels carved for titans, forests of skyscrapers, or even more often, gargantuan pillars connecting one layer of the city to the next. Anachronisms from a wide variety of eras rub shoulders without anything seeming out of the ordinary. As if the apocalypse had sent the whole of past and future history tumbling down the chutes of time, epochs embedded one on top of the other. Yet, we have no reference point against which to feel dissonance. This world is as it is, the effigy of many collapses, many rebirths, the technological prowess of yesteryear, lost over the centuries like the original of a repeatedly photocopied image. Ancestral technologies misunderstood, silently enthroned like gods indifferent to what their world has become. Retrofuturism and a clumsy attempt to exploit what the great civilizations of yesteryear left behind when they died. Like Blam's megastructure, living metastatic organisms expanding without limit, Chito and Yuri's city is incoherent, labyrinthine, overloaded, and indecent. Tangle after tangle of cables, pipes, dwellings, and roads, we understand that no one who thought they had a definite building plan for this city has lasted long enough to complete it. All these visions succeeded one another, rebuilding on the previous one and transforming it, until the very first of them became unrecognizable. A city that has succeeded in the sum of its attempts, honoring the memory of its many cycles in its presence. The chaotic beauty of endings and despair haunts these streets, offering a final tribute to dying humanity by giving it the final culmination of all its exploits as a burial ground. A mausoleum of extravagance stretching as far as the eye can see to send a message to anyone who notices. We were there. This world is beautiful because it is peaceful. The trumpets of war have long since fallen silent. Denial, pride, and vanity have done nothing. All that's left is to make the most of the last moments, to live to the last breath, to the last word of history. The reason I chose to introduce this work with a Buddhist precept is that it gives a glimpse of what awakening is. A glimpse of a life ready for death, resolved to accept it and welcome its embrace when the time comes. A victory over the suffering and chaos of samsara, trapped in the wheel of reincarnation. This time, it's finally over. All that's left is to enjoy the last rays of the setting sun before flying off to eternal peace. It's hard for us to accept the peaceful beauty of this thought, so much so that it reminds us of our own flight from the inevitable into ever more distractions and chimeras. This work indeed is a magnetic rose, because its beauty conceals its thorny reflection of our own civilizational demons. If Chito and Yuri have touched me and haunted my mind so much, it's because their gaze screams at me that all these crazy rhythms of life are just a way of never being alone with ourselves, to never discover our true identity and death's omnipresence in it. To live running as if fleeing a spectre, then to die unprepared on the day when it becomes impossible to outrun it. I'd like to mention another, rather similar, philosophical concept. Accepting the probability of dying at any moment and the absence of meaning in existence, except that which we decide to give it, is not an invitation to give up, to let ourselves die. In his work, Nietzsche speaks of strong nihilism, which, unlike the weak nihilism of decadent, hedonistic, and accelerationist civilizations, takes this absence of meaning as an invitation to surpass ourselves in the implementation of our own meaning. It's a question of trying, again and again, failure after failure, propelled by the force of eternal return, to become in each cycle a better version of ourselves, enriched by what past cycles have taught us. If the end is inevitable, it's not a question of stopping in the middle of the road to wait for it, but rather of heading headlong in its direction, and at the inescapable moment of our reunion with it, being able to tell it all the incredible things we've seen on our journey.